Turn your mind on and your TV off. It's time to hear the real truth behind what's really going on. Join Tia Severino, an advocate for truth, freedom, and spiritual growth, as she explores the real story behind what we are made to believe on her show, The People's Truth. In the next hour, you'll be exposed to shocking revelations, to lies you have believed in all your life. Together with her guests, she will unravel the facts behind the current events, health, wellness, faith, justice, and more. As Orwell said, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Join the conversation, leave a comment, or call in live 678-495-4345. Don't forget to like, share, and help spread the great message out. And now, here's Tia Severino.
Hello, and welcome to The People's Truth, where we dig deep into the issues that are really affecting our world. I'm your host, Tia Severino, and in this episode, I will be interviewing Rhonda Thomas. Rhonda Thomas is the founder and president of Atlanta-based Truth in Education. Truth in Education is dedicated to protecting minors from questionable education concepts that have seeped into the classroom and advocating for the rights of parents to control the education and health of their children. With Truth in Education, Thomas's organization focuses on protecting kids from critical race theory, gender ideology, and obscene and inappropriate books that can be accessed through students' filtered databases in the school media center. Truth in Education also advocates for parents and children to make their own choices when it comes to COVID-19 guidelines with masks and vaccines. Rhonda believes that when it comes to educating children, local control starts at home, and parents should have the final say in what materials, theories, and curriculum are being delivered to their children, no matter what school they attend. She also believes that parents, not school systems nor teachers, should make the final healthcare decisions about children. So without further ado, let me introduce Rhonda to the show. Rhonda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, I think that it is an important time. I think that with the lockdowns and kids getting pulled out of the schools over the last 18 months, especially last year when a lot of parents were stuck at home with their school, they started to learn a little bit more about things that were going on in the classroom and really opened a lot of eyes. Is this what caused you to start to pay attention, or were you already involved in trying to monitor the activities going on? How did this all come about? Did you become concerned about some things that were being taught to your own children?
Actually, Tia, I had individuals and parents coming up to me that were concerned about what was happening in their schools with their children. So probably about 5 years ago, I actually got involved. And at that time, it had to do with the comprehensive sex ed and the pornography in the libraries so that they could actually access through their databases. So wow. That was my initial introduction to all of this. And at that time, we were trying to introduce the parents and educate them and the legislators on what all this is and how it was harming our children and who could believe there would be pornography in our libraries. But for 4 years, we really did not, or were not able to kind of get that movement going. But so grateful for CRT. That sounds crazy, but the veil has been pulled back, and now everyone is seeing the porn in the library and the CSE. So that's how I got started, and since CRT has been on the scene, have just kind of moved forward with that. I've just had a heart for children all my life, so this is a passion I have.
Wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful that you have this passion. It's not wonderful that this kind of stuff is happening in the schools. I have kind of a case study in my own home where my daughter went through the public school system and is still actually, she's at Kennesaw State. She went through her entire, aside from a couple of years where she was in private school and hated it, she went through the public school system in California and here in Georgia. And my son, because of his autism, because I was not going to allow him to be in a school that would fail him, he has done cyber school. He is now a freshman in high school, and it is his 11th year at Georgia Cyber Academy, and he's thriving. And I believe it's so important to know what's going on. I see every single thing that he gets taught, but I can't imagine the wake-up call that a lot of parents have had, realizing that this stuff we're sending our most precious gifts from God to be, in some ways raised by this system, and this system is designed to turn them against their parents, against their family, and against each other. So let's talk a little bit about CRT, for those who don't know, critical race theory. When did it start? When did we start seeing this in school? What is it exactly?
Critical race theory actually is it's a theory. And so this has been creeping into our schools for a long time, but has really become obvious over the past year. But critical race theory is a theory that basically harms our children. It teaches that white people have strict control over our systems and institutions, and that it's all race-based. And think of it this way. There are many laws and policies that have been created and passed. In fact, let me tell you, go back just a minute, what one of the videos that we found online in the school on a social emotional learning platform. This is about turning our children against each other. It's about causing division. It's really bringing back segregation. I know you must have heard about the school in Atlanta that separated our children, actually created a white class and a black class, based all on the fact that each of those children could learn better based on the color of the skin. So this is all about the color of the skin. It really doesn't have anything to do with who that child is, their character, their ability to achieve or to learn. And there's actually an educator in elementary school that we have a video of, Tia, that actually is talking to these children, asking them questions like, have you ever known a non-white that has passed a law that harms a white? And the answer, he says, is no. So because of that, all whites should be experience Jim Crow. They should not be able to vote. They should be in slavery. So this is truly about marginalizing a group of people, and again, blaming one color over another for all the atrocities that we've experienced, and it's really harmful to our children.
That sounds like we're going backwards, because I think about the civil rights movement. I think about the leaders that really impacted the world. Martin Luther King,
yes,
and his great speech, I have a dream that one day my children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Right.
And honestly, I would have thought that we had made great gains in this country. There was a time that if a white woman was dating a black man, that was really frowned upon in society, and they were ostracized and just horrible on both sides, right? And now we have so many interracial couples, and nobody even bats an eye at it, and yet they want to say that we are a racist country. But I voted twice for Obama. I don't like to admit that. I kind of had a wake-up call about it, but he was presented as this incredible orator, and I listened to the things that he said, and I wanted to believe what he was saying. And I thought, what great progress we have made as this country if we can elect an African American to the highest office in the land. And really, we've gone backwards now. So we're just one president, one and a quarter presidents away from having an African American family in the White House, and they're pushing this garbage in the schools that we should now not judge people by the content of their character, but by their skin color. And now whites need to be treated with discrimination because it's really appalling to me. And it's not how I was raised. My mother she taught me you treat people based on how they treat you.
That's right. And really, this is deeper than that. This is really a worldview, Tia, that we're inflicting upon our children. This is all about dismantling our society. And they're doing that by teaching activism in our schools, and they're calling for moral, economic, and political revolution, basically through CRT. So this is a fundamental transformation of our society, and they're using critical race theory to do that. And, Stalin said, if you give me your children for 4 years, I'll create a generation of socialists, and that's what he's doing. Right. So he's not doing, but we're doing. We're taking his practices and we're following them. So this is a Marxist agenda, and we are really using our children to accomplish that goal.
Well, they are. We are not. We're fighting it.
We are not. We are fighting it. You're absolutely right. So there is a movement, though, to take this leftist progressive view and use that with our children to change our country. Not only that, it breaks down the family. And that's part of Marxism, right? Is breaking down our family, breaking down our values, transforming America from what it was established to be. It's very anti-Christian. And so America really has been a Christian country. So this is taking that and dismantling it. And when you do that, it's much easier to control people. Right. So when you remove their values, you confuse them. And when you're doing that to small children, Maria Montessori said 0 to 6, they absorb it all. And we're starting this in preschool and in kindergarten, really in kindergarten. Wow. So used to, we dealt with this in college. So hopefully your child had a pretty good foundation. They still could be influenced. But now when you're starting in kindergarten, it's really going to be very, very difficult for these children not to be brainwashed.
Well, I think that it's not just in the schools, though. It's all of society. They're getting it from every single direction. And it's really sad because children naturally they're like blank canvases almost. They really...
Absolutely.
It's true. They absorb everything. And, before we go, we've got a couple of minutes before the break. I'd like to bring up that this really started with the breakdown of the family with the feminist movement. A lot of people think of the feminist movement as like this noble cause, but there's a famous interview with Aaron Russo where he's talking to Alex Jones, and he mentions being friends with Nick Rockefeller and how Nick Rockefeller one night asked him, Aaron, what do you think the feminist movement was about? And Aaron said, well, at the time, I thought it was a noble cause. It was about women having the right to vote and getting equal pay with men. And Rockefeller laughed at him. He said, you're an idiot. Let me tell you what that was. We, the Rockefellers, we funded the women's movement. And we did so for 2 reasons. One was so that we could tax the other half of the population, because at the time, women were at home raising the children and keeping the homes, so they couldn't tax the women. But the other reason, and the more sinister reason, was to get the children into the schools at a younger age so that they could become indoctrinated, so that they could start to look at the state as the authority and not their family. They've been very successful with this. Society has suffered tremendously, and nowhere more so, I would say, than in the people in the communities of color, where it really has had such a tremendous impact. But we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we'll get deeper into what you call, or what is called, social emotional learning after the break.
The time to defy the modern agenda is now. UI Media Network presents Frequency Wars, an explosive new series that examines contentious subject matter pursuing us beyond our five senses. This weekly series discovers the intricacies of imposing issues that challenge our daily existence and question humanity. Provocative and intriguing, we confront the issues and conflicts affecting us on a global scale. Manipulation, manpower, or others simply controlling your mentality. The commentary and guests will shift our paradigm and defy the status quo.
In 1979, the so-called father of Israeli intelligence, a guy called Issa Harel, told an American journalist that there was going to be an Islamic attack on New York's biggest building.
Bill Gates, he is publicly saying we should consider microchipping all of humanity so we can track their vaccination status.
What you see in movies like The Avengers, that's actually true.
What will you believe? Frequency Wars challenges perception to take back your sovereignty. The power and purpose are greater than any of us, but we will test it all. Frequency Wars, the next revolution.
Welcome back to The People's Truth with Tia Severino. My guest today is Rhonda Thomas, and we're talking about social emotional learning. Some of the things that you may not have realized were going on in the state-sponsored indoctrination camps known as public schools. So, Rhonda, before the break, we were talking about critical race theory. Let's delve a little bit deeper into what is called social emotional learning. It sounds like a good thing, right? But
it does.
I mean,
it does. And I'm sorry, Terry. It's presented that way, too, through our educators and I believe, too, our teachers, that it is a great opportunity to get to know your students better, to figure out how to work with them. It's just a great little package, but really what it does is it incorporates their cognitive skills, their emotional competencies, and their social and interpersonal skills together to achieve a goal. And it's a vehicle, really, Tia, that's used to instill an ideology into our children, and those ideologies are known as cultural competencies. We think we're sending our children off to school to learn reading, math, and arithmetic, right? Core competencies. But although critical race theory, comprehensive sex ed, gender, all that is harmful, they're just pieces of the bigger puzzle when it comes to social emotional learning. I think of social emotional learning as re-educating our children. They are bringing them in with the goal to control their language, their thoughts, their behaviors, and their personal relationships by educating them on issues dubbed cultural competencies. And those include the critical race theory, the 1619. It just incorporates all of that. One of the biggest organizations, and it's in all our schools, is called CASEL. CASEL is Collaborative for Academic and Emotional Learning. And CASEL's website, anyone can pull it up. And in fact, I would recommend them doing that. Their main purpose is to bring equity into our school systems. So social emotional learning, CASEL actually got the idea from a group called the Fetzer Institute, which happens to be a non-governmental organization. And Mr. Fetzer was mentored by a lady named Alice Bailey. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's actually an occultist. So social emotional learning actually has not that too many people know this, but it actually has an occult background because it came through Alice Bailey. So their goal is to bring this in and to educate our children, really to change their beliefs, behaviors, and attitudes through social emotional learning and bringing forth what they believe those should be. Who knows? We wouldn't want our schools teaching their values, would we? We wouldn't want them changing their attitudes because we have no idea. I would say it would be an ideology and a worldview that parents would not agree with.
Well, you're saying that this has its roots from an occultist.
Right.
So being a Christian, when I hear the word occult, I think, well, that's probably not Christian. So
Right.
I know that, we've had a turning away from God in the school. Prayer is not allowed in the school. So we can't teach Christian ideals and Christian ideologies in the school, but an occultist can create a program to come in and teach our children things that probably don't align with Christian values. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. So when you think about social emotional learning and its roots and the fact that they're using it to change our children's values that we've taught them, their beliefs, their behaviors, that's huge. And then when you bring mindfulness into that, which is in all our schools, mindfulness is new age. It is definitely transcendental meditation. So when you put SEL and mindfulness together, that is definitely anti-Christian and is very harmful for our children. So these are the two biggest things really to me that are going on in the school. CRT, all this other ideologies are harmful, and they're using the psychological SEL to bring it in and to change all that. But yes, it's very harmful, very anti-Christian. And like you said, when we started taking prayer out of school, they've been preparing this. They're very patient.
Multi-generational.
Remove it. Multi-generational, this has been happening. So it's been there a very long time. And it's really uncomfortable when I have a slide from the Georgia Board of Education, a presentation that was done. And in this, it says, our students and families need us. That right there should concern us, right? Need us more for social emotional learning over content. So we are moving away from academic into a behavioral situation with our children. We are getting less academics, more focused on the social emotional learning of our students and not teaching them what they need to be successful. It's really a switch and bait, social emotional learning is. So it tells us one thing, like you said earlier, that it's so good. We can get to know these children, know their emotional state, but then they come in and it's a methodology, and you can't opt out of any of it, Tia, because it's all really one package. And it's served up in a data collection platform. So all of this information that they are collecting through SEL, which is social emotional learning, is being data mined on our children. They give them surveys all day long, and those surveys aren't graded. They're just to collect information because they're building an EQ, an emotional quotient on our children, just like an IQ.
So really, this is about, as I've said, this is indoctrination. This is literally indoctrination. We are not.
Yes.
We're not. Our children are not leaving the school system with the skills that they need to survive in the world. They're leaving the school environment really needing further indoctrination. Right. And they're already being kind of fine-tuned. And this is coming in through not just through the curriculum. It's coming in through the teachers. So the teachers are actually acting almost as a medium, as a conduit for this emotional programming, if you will. And it's interesting that they use the word social emotional learning in there. What they're doing is they are, through peer pressure, through the classroom environment with the teachers and the other peers and by manipulating the emotions of the children, they're changing the way that their brains are working so that we as parents can't even go in there and undo the damage that's being done. And I see this with like I said, with my daughter who went through the holes. She's still in college. She's 31, and it is like I don't know where my child went. Where is this person? Who is this person? Where is my child that I raised? Is she a completely different, almost alien human to me? And not that I'm not saying that in any way negative. I love my daughter. but we're not on the same page. We're not on the same planet sometimes. And it breaks my heart because that's not how I raised her to be. That's not the values that I tried to instill in her. And I can't undo the damage. How do we undo this damage? It's almost like you really have to grab your children as if you are grabbing them from a whirlpool. You know, like imagine you're leaning over a boat, your child is caught in a whirlpool, and you are reaching out trying to grab a hold of them to pull them out of it, and it feels hopeless.
Yeah, it does feel helpless. And the unfortunate thing is parents don't understand through this that I know I don't agree with certain things like the New Green Deal, but this is being taught in our schools through social emotional learning. They're learning about no private property. They're learning about climate change. They're learning about pansexual and diversity and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they're being taught to be activists. All of the organizations that are bringing this into our schools, they get funding and grants, are non-governmental organizations. They're global companies like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Fetzer Institute, the Aspen Institute. It's people that we would not want their views, our children to adopt their views, but that's exactly what's happening. So when they're given a lesson on something, they're taught an way to take an action on it. So we are truly raising activists through this also.
Just what the world needs, a bunch of social justice warriors.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What a nightmare. So let's talk a little bit more about the diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've got a few minutes before the next break. What is diversity, equity, inclusion? Again, it sounds good, doesn't it? Just like all of Obama's speeches. It sounds so good until you realize it's all lies and it's the reverse of what they're actually telling you.
Absolutely. And DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, really, we've been doing this a long time and we didn't even know it. Quotas, remember when quotas started and all of that? So this is basically categorizing people based on color. And unfortunately, none of our children win that way because you have to literally take one group down to bring another up. So in the end, they are basically both losers because they're all going to be held back. Equity is not good for anyone. And through this equity, they're taking away class rankings. They're taking away AP classes a little at a time, but eventually we won't have AP classes. If your child can do an AP class and mine can't, then that's not equity. So we're giving up the American dream. We are replacing truth with truth is not a good thing anymore. We are taking critical thinking and replacing it with feelings. So this is all about categorizing people based on color. Nothing else matters. And really, we're harming all our children because we're telling Black kids that they can't succeed and they're not smart enough unless we hold another group down. That's not true. They are very smart. All our children are. They just need that confidence that should be given. Right. But we're taking that all away. So it's just very unfortunate where our school is at this moment with our kids. It's very harmful to our children, our families, and our freedoms. We are not going to be able to compete either globally because our education is really dropping globally. I think we're number 37 in math and science. I mean, China's number 1. That right there should scare us, right? So we are very much undereducating our children, but yet we are creating microaggressions, which equals victimhood, which really equals narcissism because it's all about them. It's all about them.
Right.
So.
Well, and they say that this is because they want everyone to succeed, but really what they want is for everyone to fail.
That's right.
Because that's what equity is. It's not about bringing everybody up to a level of success. It's about making sure that the ones who could succeed don't succeed so that it's fair for everybody. Whatever happened to American exceptionalism? The best and the brightest, the cream rises to the top. We don't want cream anymore. We just want cottage cheese, I guess. I don't know, but who likes cottage cheese anyway? We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into some very disturbing things. I'm sure you guys are going to be real mad when we're done with after the break.
If this content resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel at uimedianetwork.org to stay updated with our uncensored shows. Also, like and follow us at UI Media Network on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and almost all your favorite podcasting platforms. Most importantly, if you're being censored on social media, write to us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to get your message out. And remember, keep raising that frequency.
Welcome back to The People's Truth with Tia Severino. My guest today is Rhonda Thomas. We've been talking about social emotional learning, the things that they are teaching our children in school in what I like to call the state-sponsored indoctrination camps. What is indoctrination? Is it brainwashing or is it worse? The truth of the matter is we're sending our children into these schools. We want them to learn how to read, write, do math so that they can succeed and learn some skills, learn some history, learn some social studies, science, all those things that make you a well-rounded person. And, truly education is one of the most important gifts that we can give our children. But our children are the most important gifts given to us by God. And here we are handing them over to the socialist, communist, really, Marxist thugs that have taken over our school system because they know if they can get our children early, they can really take control of the next generation. And if we lose this generation, I don't think we're going to have another generation. I believe that the goal is depopulation, and they're going to do it one way or another, either through abortions, which is one of their favorite things in the world, or by confusing our children to the point where they either think the world is such a horrible place, what a horrible, terrible place. You would never want to bring children into the world. It's racist. It's evil. You can't succeed because of your skin color. And by the way, maybe you're not even the gender that you were born with. So let's talk about the hypersexualization of our children through the schools, some of the things that they're being taught from a really, really young age, the idea that they can choose their gender, the idea that there's multiple genders, that there's a spectrum of genders. I don't mean to be disparaging to anyone who feels that they were somehow born in the wrong body. I know that there are some genetic anomalies, intersex, those kind of things are extremely, extremely rare. And I've had friends and I have family members who are either gay or trans, and my heart breaks for them because of the pain that they're going through, feeling that they are not in the right body or that they can't relate to their biological sex. But this is something that we used to hear about this very, very rarely. And now it seems like it's every classroom. It's every child is now being greeted by their teachers at the beginning of the school year and saying, what is your gender identity and what are your preferred pronouns? It's absolutely maddening. Let's talk about, what is it?
Comprehensive sex ed.
Comprehensive sex ed. Okay.
Comprehensive sounds great, right?
It does.
Tia, you're going to have to learn your pronouns before long, right? Let me tell you what, I'm just teasing.
I know what mine are.
I know what mine are too, and we're very confident in that.
Cisgender female, and my pronouns are she and her.
Good, very good. I'm glad you know that. Yeah. So our sex ed in our schools is not even written by our own government, our own education department. It's written by UNESCO.
What?
These come, yes, they come. UNESCO is
a food service company.
UNESCO is the United Nations. Yes.
I'm trying to lighten things up a little bit here.
Yeah, really, because it could get pretty serious. But UNESCO is part of the UN. It's
Wow.
their educational, scientific, and cultural organization. Our sex ed standards aren't even from our government, but every school's adopted them.
Wow.
So basically, the UN, UNESCO, they believe that children are sexual from birth. They have sexual desires and needs, fantasies and dreams, and that we should back that up, and that they have sexual rights and they should be guaranteed. What about the parents' rights? What about, can you imagine at birth being automatically, they believe that you are born that way? And that goes back to Alfred Kinsey. Do you know who Alfred Kinsey is?
Just about to say,
Yes.
Isn't he the one who wrote the book about the male sexual
Yes.
law, and then
Yes.
did one about it? It was great when he wrote about the male sexual, and I forget what the title of that book is. You can remind me.
Yeah.
But he wrote that, and then he wrote the book about women, and it caused a big controversy. But
Yes.
from what I understand, he determined that children are sexual by sexually
birth.
abusing children.
Yes, yes. In fact, he was a pedophile, and so were all the people that participated in his so-called scientific study. But everything he did made its way into our laws. So our laws have been relaxed over the years. And unfortunately, there's a big drive to make pedophilia legal. Mm-hmm. And that's what we don't want, right? But it all goes back to Alfred Kinsey. So, comprehensive sex ed has not been adopted into all our schools. It has some counties, but it is being pushed for every school. So, they tell children that they can choose their gender in kindergarten. They tell 5-year-olds that they can pleasure themselves.
What?
They tell
In the
5-year-olds.
school, they're telling them that.
Yes. So therefore, 9-year-olds on how to put a condom on, and they tell children that they can say things like, "I like it when you touch me there." So what are we doing? We're grooming our children, right, for sex trafficking and for pedophilia. It removes any type of relationship. It just removes any type of being committed to someone. It brings a lot of, they're desensitizing our children. So there's actually something in kindergarten called the genderbread person. The genderbread person, where they teach our kindergartners that you can choose your sex. It's not how you're born. It's what you think, how you feel, and how you express yourself. So that is where all this is beginning. This is not in every school yet, but that is the push. I know Clark County and DeKalb and Gwinnett is now pushing for it. So let me give you an example. In middle school, 12 to 14-year-olds, underneath comprehensive sex ed are different curriculums. This is called Making a Difference. So this is ways they can express their feelings. So we're talking about oral sex, vaginal intercourse, all this in middle school. Mm-mm. And then I'm not going to get into it too much more, but let me tell you this one. This is to make light of it. But 6-year-olds, second grade, they make jokes, and it's not really a joke, but they present it that way. The penis does not have bones in it, but when people talk about an erection as a boner, they are mistaken. So I hope it's okay that I'm saying these things out loud to you on this show. But you're right.
Wow.
Look where this choosing your gender takes us in kindergarten. Now we're actually protesting drag queen story hours in our libraries, right? So we protested one a year and a half maybe ago in Alpharetta. But that lady, that Miss Terracotta Sugar Baker, ended up being our diversity trainer for our Georgia Library Association. But because of that, we're now seeing young children that are confused on their gender. Did you know Children's Hospital has a transgender clinic? So 6, 7, and 8-year-olds can go and they get hormones. Then they move them to puberty blocking drugs. We have not been able at this point to prove if they've started a surgery, but at 13, they start cutting their breast off. This is serious, serious stuff. And it goes back to what you said. This falls right into depopulation, doesn't it? Because these children will never have children. They can never go back. And it's an unfortunate unfortunate thing. And even a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, but there was a young child that was on all over television that had become a drag queen and was dancing. Yes, 11 years old. So this is serious. And the sad part is that what we're teaching in our sex ed classes, when you pull up the FBI's bullet points for what pedophiles do to draw in children, our sex ed that we're teaching does exactly the same thing. It demonstrates sex acts to our children. It lowers their inhibitions. It actually desensitizes them, sexually arouses them, and that's exactly what pedophiles do to draw children to them. So we are preparing them for pedophilia, and we're preparing them for sex trafficking. And I know that you are aware that California passed the law, I think it was last year, that you could have sex with anyone as long as there was no more than 10 years, less than 10 years between you. So, I mean, we're talking about a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old, right? Wow. So there's a great guy that I think people should follow, Jaco Boyens. Have you heard of him? He's done a movie called 8 Days. His sister was actually part of sex trafficking, and so he has gotten very involved. And he refers to comprehensive sex ed in the public schools as a grooming tool for children. So this is very serious. And not only that, Tia, we have pornography in our school libraries. We have gone in and we have found it. The school libraries have a filtered database called Galileo, but our children can get through that database and they can get soft porn, hard porn, torture sex, BDSM, anything they want. And we have tried so hard to educate our school board members. We've worked with the legislators, and the past 2 sessions there's been a bill because, believe it or not, schools K through 12 are exempt from the obscenity law in Georgia. What? Yes, 43 states, and we're one of them. So that is making it very difficult to close that loophole in the schools.
Well, hold on a second. I seem to remember our governor's wife supposedly being really big against child sex trafficking.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Why are parents not up in arms? Why? I don't understand. Why are parents not up in arms? I heard recently about a book called 142 Things to Write About. Have you heard of this book? And it's got topics in there like write about a time when you wanted to orgasm but couldn't.
Yes.
Write a sex scene that you wouldn't want your mom to read. And I saw a video clip of a school board meeting where parents were basically reading this. This is a curriculum that has been brought into the school. I don't know if it's here in Georgia, but in this particular school board meeting, this had been in the school for 6 years. It was it's a book with writing prompts. The children were told not to take it home, not to tell their parents about this. And the parents found out about it, and I saw a mayor walk into the school board. I don't know if you saw this video, but this mayor walked in and he said, "You either resign or you're being brought up on charges of child porn." And all I can say is, bravo, bravo. But why? Then why?
So, Tia,
what is going on with our governor and his wife claiming to be against child sex trafficking and allowing this kind of garbage to be happening in our schools in Georgia as part of the Bible Belt? What is going on? Why are parents not up in arms? Is it just that they don't know? And if it's just that they don't know, what can we do to wake parents up that this is happening?
Well, Truth in Education would love for those individuals. We need parents involved, right? We need them. Reach out to us. Go to our website, truthineducation.org, and fill out the form to join us. We would love for you to join our team, but even if you want to just volunteer for us, we need more parents involved. But part of it, Tia, is the education part of it. We have got to bring the attention to the parents and make them aware of what's happening, because this this is serious. This is serious. There was a 7-year-old several months ago that was that raped another child.
Whoa.
That's the other thing that we're finding is child-on-child sexual assault is on the rise. Even in the military, they are dealing with the same thing. So this is coming. I know that they can get this outside of school, but our tax dollars should not be used to bring pornography into our libraries with our children. That is wrong. And so we really do need to educate our parents. And I sat with a school board member. I won't say which county at the moment, but I showed her through my computer how these children got to this pornography. Nothing was ever done. There is a huge pushback from the American Library Association, from the NEA, the National Education Association, even the PTA. If a school has a PTA, the parents need to get rid of that and bring in a PTO. They're not paying any money to a union. Their money stays in their school, and they're not getting that progressive influence that comes through the PTA. Wow. So this is serious. I'm just shocked. Parents, if your children are in the state-sponsored indoctrination camps, you have got to start to pay attention. Well, first of all, get your kids out of the public schools. There are plenty of good private Christian schools. That don't have to be Christian schools. It can be other religious schools. Or homeschool, or do what I do, which is cyber school, where I am monitoring everything. If they ever pull this nonsense, of course, my son's got special needs, so he's in a modified setting. I mean, I would absolutely lose my mind, though. And if I had found out that they were teaching these kind of things to my daughter when she was a child, there's no way, absolutely no way. We've got to take one more break. We're going to come back and we're going to get into solutions, because I know that all of you who have been listening so far are probably mad as hell. And you're like, Tia, what can we do about this? We'll tell you after the break.
What I know is that the checkerboard of life is based on dualistic principles. Binary, Shiva, Shakti, sun, moon, light, day, good, evil, male, female. It's everywhere. Everything has been broken down into that dialectic. That, and even in the geopolitical landscape, the Republican and Democrat, the Labor and the Conservative, all of that is a constant binary logic, which is designed to create a relentless wheel, a dharma wheel of suffrage and of exploitation and of supremacy of the majority over the minority. And then, of course, it swings the other way. So at what point do we step back from that bullshit dialectic and recognize that it's also playing out psycho-emotionally, psychosexually, and psycho-intellectually inside each one of us? Step back from all of the checkerboard of the evil and the good and the evil, the light and the dark, and recognize that those two aspects of the checkerboard are there as part of a interwoven tapestry against which we are required to define our Christed nature and our supernature, and then transmute and transcend that dualistic playing a chess field and move into a state of witness where we begin to actually define a whole new paradigm based not on binary logic and duality, but based on transmutative and transcendent principles, which is empathy, compassion, limitlessness, the capacity to love and be loved limitlessly, and causing no harm, loss, or injury to another living soul. That's where we get into natural law.
That natural law, bam!
Thanks for sticking around to watch this episode of The People's Truth with Tia Severino. If you're enjoying this content, you'll want to head over to uimedianetwork.org, where you can find other thought-provoking, uplifting, and insightful programs. With social media overlords censoring our every move, we need your help getting the word out. So please share this content with your friends, family, and wider social following. In times of in a time where the truth is being censored, we really do need your help. So we're coming back with my guest today, who is Rhonda Thomas of Truth in Education. We've been talking about social emotional learning a little bit about critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and comprehensive sex education. And if you've been watching so far, you're probably pretty riled up, especially if you have children or grandchildren that are currently in the state-sponsored indoctrination camps, which is what I call the public school system. And if you do have children in the public school system, my biggest and greatest advice to you is get them out, because this is the kind of stuff that they are teaching. They're teaching them to hate themselves because of their skin color. They're taught that they shouldn't even try to succeed because everybody has to be on the same level. They're being taught that they can choose their own gender. They're taught that they should be sexual from an early age. I mean, this is absolutely infuriating and maddening. It's all part of a satanic agenda. And I'm sorry for those of you who are not Christian or who bristle at the thought of God. You may not believe in God, but what you need to understand is that these people absolutely do. They 100% believe in the God of the Bible, and they are rooting for the other guy. That is why everything that is good is flipped on its reverse and then fed back to us as if that is what is good. So let's get into some of the solutions that Truth in Education has as suggestions or guidelines for people who want to kind of get involved. And we've got to push back. How can we stop this madness from happening to our children? Because even if I pull my children out of the school system, they're still growing up in a world. They still have to go out into a society where the majority of the people that they're going to be interacting with have been through this indoctrination camp. What a dangerous world to be living in today. What's the answer, Rhonda? What's the answer?
Tia, I think the answer is, number one, no one loves your child like you do, right? And exactly what you said, everything God created is being really fought against, and everything about our child, physical, social, emotional, everything about them is under attack. And so for parents that want to get involved, if you have an issue at school, we recommend first going through the chain of command, basically your teacher, your principal, the school board, the state superintendent. But if that does not work, in the meantime, you need to go to the school board meetings. You need to unite with parents that are like-minded. There are parents out there, because many times we feel like we're alone. And I will tell you, our schools are taught to make parents feel like they are the only ones complaining. They are trained to do that. So don't pay attention to that. Find other parents that are also struggling, and some don't. They just know something's wrong, so they're getting involved. We need to make sure we know our legislator. Reach out to them. They're just people. Take them to lunch, have a cup of coffee with them, but definitely call and talk to them. You need to know them, because there will be education bills coming up that really you need to know about and get involved. Align, of course, with other parents. Educate your legislators. Educate yourself. Tia, one of the things that makes this difficult is so much of the curriculum is online, and it makes it very difficult for a parent to find. So that's another reason that you need to know your teacher. You need to talk a lot to your student. You need to ask them every day, try to just fill them out and see what they're being given, because a lot of that's going to come from them, because you're not going to know everything they're taught, because it is a Chromebook. They're not bringing back hard covered books anymore, right? So those are the things that we recommend. And really, I agree with you, Tia. I know every parent has a different situation, so they have to make that personal decision themselves. But I'll just be honest with you. I have days where I just wake up and I just want to go, take your child out. They are dying inside. They are dying inside. No child can go through this every single day CRT is woven through every one of their classes. If a history teacher plants a seed, the math teacher confirms it. You cannot get them out of any of it. So the ultimate wonderful thing would be if we could pull our children out, but not everyone can. So if you cannot, get in touch with us, truthineducation.org. Let us help you. We come alongside parents. We go to school boards with parents. We can help you find the right people to talk to if you have questions, or we can help you with those questions. But you really need to get involved. We can't sit on the sideline any longer, because not only are we losing our children, we are losing our freedoms. We are losing our country. And like you said earlier, Tia, we are losing the generation that's coming up behind us, and that is going to take all these elected seats. But more than that, we're losing their souls. We are losing these children's souls. And I know people that may not be Christian, but they do have, as most of us do, a moral plumb line. You know, we know what's right and wrong, and what is happening in that school is wrong. So every parent shares their value system with their child, and that school is taking it away. So it's very, very important you get involved, and that might look differently for each of you, but we would love to help you with that. Again, just reach out to us and let us know what your needs are, how we can support you, how we can pray for you. We have a Zoom prayer every other Monday for parents to get on, that we can pray for you and with you and for your child. So those are the things, is just getting involved. It seems so monotonous to go to school board every month, but you don't realize how important that is. It puts pressure on them. They know that you're watching them, you're listening, and you learn a lot, and you meet other parents that are in the same situation that really, really, really want to make a difference. And your child sees us. This is the other thing, Tia. I think our children need to see us as parents out fighting this stuff. That is an example to them that, number one, we love you so much. We are willing to be bold, to go out of our comfort zone, to get involved, because we know it's evil, we know it's wrong, and they need to see that in us, that we're willing to stand up for what's right and come against what's wrong. But I think it also reinforces for that child how much we care about them, that we would do that. We would go out to fight for them. It's very important.
We really need to get, I feel like that there is just such a disconnect, and parents are, they've done a really good job of creating a society where we as parents, with both parents in the workforce, we're just busy trying to survive. We send the school to, COVID really showed us something, didn't it? When they shut down the schools, it showed us how dependent we are on that two-income family household, where it literally crippled families, where they couldn't send their children to school. And parents just don't know. It's all they can do to get their kids on the bus in the morning before they have to rush off to work, and they come home exhausted from work. The kids come home. There's no conversation. Parents don't know. We have got to work out a grassroots campaign to bring awareness to parents, because parents, I guarantee you, if you polled 100 parents and asked them, did you know they are teaching this stuff in your children's school, that many of them would become outraged and would, and so they need answers. And thank you so much, Rhonda, for what you're doing with Truth in Education. I know that you're here in Georgia. I don't know if Truth in Education expands beyond Georgia, but I'm certain that the principles that you are espousing could be duplicated in other states if you're not a national organization. I'm sure that if a parent, because we're on Peeps TV right now, and so we've got parents from all around the country and all around the world that watch us. So you don't mind if people reach out to you from outside of Georgia? And
we are looking for people to start chapters in other states. We have a few states, but we would love to grow and come alongside, equip, train, and start this in other states. Yes.
And we need to get the kids involved too, because there's a lot of really great children that are in high school that They want activists. Well, I'm going to tell you something. They want to make activists. I think we can make that backfire on them because the kids know. The kids know they know what's happening in their schools. So if we can get some of those high school and college kids to step up to the plate and become activists to fight against this garbage that is being pushed on our children in this.
Yes.
If we don't take back this generation, I fear society will collapse. And I've said that and I mean it. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for what you're doing. We appreciate having you here on the
Thank you for having me, Tia.
And everybody come back. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another great episode of The People's Truth with Tia Severino. Until then, take care and we love you.
Whoa. My mind has officially been blown wide open. As yours? Keep sharing the show and join us in our mission to educate the world with uncensored truth. As they say, together we are stronger, our voices louder, and the synergy of our actions more powerful. If you have any comments or questions for Tia and her guests, send us an email at contact@uimedianetwork.org. Until then, stay safe, stay tuned. The UI Media Network and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.